record to the cloud, and we'll get started. Hi, TJ. Hi, Kaya. Welcome to our CofC Honors and Community Engagement panel. I am Elizabeth Roberts. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions. TJ, I think we've met a couple times, and Kaya, I've probably been sending you emails. We may have a couple more folks joining us, but I'm also going to be recording this for people who weren't able to join at this time. But I've got 4 really great panelists, 2 alums and then 2 current students ready to talk to you all about honors engaged and community involvement sort of across the board as a CofC honors student. And so we're going to just go ahead and get started and sort of turn it over to them. So panelists, I'll just ask you to each introduce yourself. And if you wouldn't mind saying your name, your year, so when you graduated or will graduate, your major, and what does community engagement mean to you? Just a really quick sort of, how would you define that? So Melanie, if we could start with you, and we'll kind of work our way up to our 16 grad.
Okay, hi, my name is Melanie. I'm a psychology major. I'm a sophomore, so I'll graduate in 23. God, what am I supposed to say? I already forgot all of that.
Major? Did you say major?
Yeah, I'm a psychology major.
Psychology major. And then what does community engagement mean to you?
To me, it means like helping people that, not so much that are like less fortunate than you, but like using the resources that you have to like help other people who may not have the same resources as you. And I think that Honors Engaged does that.
Okay, I'm Chloe. I'm a senior, so I graduate this spring. I am a computer science major, and community engagement to me is doing something you like that can also benefit other people. So.
Hi, I'm Jill. I graduated with the class of 2017, and I was a business administration major. To me, community engagement is about getting outside into wherever you live and learning about the issues that affect your community and trying to do something about them.
Hey everyone, my name's Olivia. I graduated in 2016 from the Honors College. I studied Spanish and International Studies during my time there. And to me, community engagement, especially in a college context, means kind of embedding yourself in the larger community and being able to kind of like what Jillian said, like start to understand the issues that are surrounding you and get involved and be a part of that.
Okay, so I've got a few questions prepared for our panelists, but I'm also would encourage you all to, if you have any questions for them at all, whether or not it's related to community engagement, that's fine. Feel free at any point to unmute yourself or to ask them in the chat box. Either one works, but just to kind of get the ball rolling, what is Honors Engaged? So if one of you would sort of explain what Honors Engaged is, and then if we could each go around and sort of share, what did you do for your Honors Engaged project? No takers on. Melanie, you're currently having to explain it to our current freshmen. So why don't you take a stab at explaining Honors Engaged?
Okay, so I'm also an Honors Engaged liaison this year. So I did Honors Engaged last year, and I'm like involved with it again. I'm leading like the freshmen doing their projects, and Honors Engaged is basically like there are 2 tracks for it. You can do direct service, which is like directly going out into the community. And this is all based off of the UN's sustainability goals, like I don't even remember them: food security, housing, infrastructure, that kind of stuff. And direct service is like directly going out into the community and like helping. Sorry. It's like going out into the community and like directly helping with these like issues. So like one of them is like food security. There's like Green Heart, where you go out and like help kids in elementary schools like around here plant like gardens and grow the food and stuff. And then there's deliberative democracy, which I didn't do, so I am less experienced with it and I understand it a bit less, but it's like understanding more of like the, I guess like the laws, but not like the laws, just like how things work. And it's not so much going out and, yeah, thank you for that, Elizabeth. It's not like directly going out into the community and changing things, but it's like more like research and trying to understand, talking about it, dialogue, maybe attending like panels and yeah, stuff like that. It depends on like what project you have.
So one of my favorite deliberative democracy tracks to talk about is the Liberty and Democracy for All one. So the students in that one last year, were you in that one?
That's what I have this year.
Oh, you have that one this year. Awesome. Yeah. So the students that participated in that one last year, based on some of the like research that they were doing and things they were learning about the community, they actually started a group on campus, a student organization called Cougar Votes. They have been like on the front lines trying to get every single student on campus registered to vote, help them navigate like, what is your plan to vote? And so that's sort of, of course, that's like best case scenario. This is pie in the sky, what we would love to see happen, that sort of like on campus in the community change. But that's a great example of deliberative democracy at work. So would you each share sort of what you did for Honors Engaged?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, sure.
So last year, my Honors Engaged project was REACH. So REACH is like a program here at the college for students with intellectual disabilities. So it's honestly a great program. I love it so much. I was a social mentor, so I basically just like hung out with my mentee for like 4 to 6 hours a week, and the whole like goal of it was to help them become better at like being social and making friends. And I actually enjoyed it so much that I'm still the mentor. Like I'm still my mentees like mentor. We're still friends. We still hang out, and I absolutely love them, and I really enjoyed my project.
I'm happy to go next. I actually loved hearing Melanie talk about the different tracks because I am a senior, and so it's been 3 years since I guess, since I've done my Honors Engaged project, and I had not even known that they branched off into different tracks. Hi, Bella. But so I'm also a REACH mentor. My Honors Engaged project was with REACH. And just like Melanie said, she described it very well. I was a social mentor. And I also really loved it. It very much didn't feel like work by a couple weeks in. But basically you just get paired with a mentee and then you tell them and share your experiences and you just help them adjust to college life, just like you're helping yourself adjust to college life and you're figuring things out around you. Usually if you're a freshman, they pair you up with a freshman. But it's this very nice way to really feel like you're giving back and you're doing something for somebody else. But then that quickly goes away and you're still doing that, but then you also just have a friend. So I'm a senior, my mentee's now a senior, and it's just a regular relationship. And every once in a while, if something weird comes up, I will send a text to the mentor coordinator and be like, hey, this kind of odd thing happened, like, and they'll check back with them. But seeing the difference from freshman year to senior year and how much they've grown and how much you've been a part of helping them adjust to college and helping them grow up through college, just like you've grown up through college, is a really amazing experience.
And when I did my Honors Engaged project, I did Project Greenheart, which Melanie had mentioned. And so she had given a brief intro to it, but basically there's different schools that are underserved in the community. And I think when I was there, I think there might've been 2 or 3 that you could get placed at, and you help the children in the garden as they learn about it's reinforcing their classroom lessons as well. So you're doing different things in the garden. You might be measuring with them. So they're learning about sustainable eating and learning their classroom lessons as well. And at least when I was there, their end goal was to try and get a salad bar in their school that was kind of made by the gardens that were there. So it was really cool. And kind of like what Melanie and Chloe referenced, it wasn't that a mentor-mentee relationship, but I continued on after just the first year of Honors Engaged. And I did that for a year and a half after it was even required anymore, because it was a really fun time to just get away and see some joy in the kids and for some cool lessons.
Hey everyone again. So I really loved hearing Melanie explain Honors Engaged, because kind of as Chloe mentioned, like it has evolved a lot and changed a lot, definitely from when I was a freshman, which has now been a long time ago. And I honestly just want to say that I think that's a huge credit to the Honors College, because you can see through their programming, like they really are always reinventing, making things better, building on feedback from the past and making these programs even stronger. So I think that's awesome. So when I did Honors Engaged, it was more focused on reading and literacy initiatives. So I was placed in a school working with, I think, first and second graders who were learning how to read. And that was a really great experience for me as a freshman, because I think it can be really easy to get not trapped, but you just kind of get enveloped in the campus atmosphere and being on the CofC campus, which is beautiful, and it can get easy not to go out and see other areas of the community of Charleston, but there definitely is way more than just the downtown area where campus is. And so that was really impactful for me to, get off campus a bit, see a different area, see a different community, and start to get to know other community members outside of just the campus.
Okay, so that was a great start. So not all honors colleges and programs require that our students engage in service learning. So why does CofC Honors, in your opinion, and what is the impact on students and the community?
I can start, because I think that ties into a lot of why, like what I took out of my honors learning, my honors engaged, because that probably isn't something I would have done by myself as a freshman student. And I think it is so important when you have a campus and a college community within a greater community that there isn't a big divide. Like you don't want to be hurting that community in any way. You want to be a welcome presence and you want to have a positive contribution. And there's not really a great way to make those connections, especially when you're just getting your footing all by yourself. So having the Honors College like intentionally pair you up with different community organizations that have been vetted, they know they have a good partnership with, and like creating those lasting links, even if you might only volunteer there for 2 years or 3 years or maybe the whole 4 years. There's obviously going to be turnover when it's a college, but having that like sustainable link that's coordinated through the Honors College, you're able to build that like long-term trust within the community that can go beyond your 4 years. It can last for longer than that. So I think it's a great requirement and definitely like will enhance your education overall, because a big thing that, CofC admissions says is like the city is your classroom, and that's so true. And so being able to actually know the people but will help you make those connections in your classroom too.
I just want to add that I remember when I was in Beyond George Street and they were talking to us about this, which is a first year class. They would always clarify this is not volunteer work, because I think a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm going to go volunteer here for my Honors Engaged project or whatever. But it's really a commitment and it is a requirement. Not to say that it's forced or it's not enjoyable because of that, but it's that idea of you are doing something and it's required, and a commitment is necessary to do it, that helps build those lasting relationships that Olivia was talking about.
I would just add, in your development as a person, I think this serves another role. And in college, you're getting your classes, you're learning how to be on your own, you're learning to be independent, all of that. And this is helping you shape how you look at the world in a way. It's teaching you to look at something bigger than yourself, and get involved in your community, not just because it's going to be volunteering where you get to help people, but you get to learn really kind of methods of how to look at that it's not like a hero mindset or anything like that. It's just being a part of something bigger than yourself and getting in touch with that. And so I think it shapes the way you go forward looking at the world. Even if you don't continue in your engaged project in the future, it really helps you to develop as a person.
So sort of going off of what Chloe said with the idea that it's not necessarily volunteer work, how would you say that it is different from volunteer work or like service learning that you maybe did in high school prior to coming to college?
I mean, just for my sake, in high school and what I did before, it was kind of like I would have like a one-off, I'm going to go volunteer here, I'm going to volunteer at this event, I'm going to go do this. And once I left, I didn't super think about it again. Whereas when I started with mentoring for Reach, it's a commitment because you have given yourself to this program and you've told them that you're going to form a relationship with this person, you're going to be there for that person. And so it is just a 1-year commitment for the Honors College, but I think just like me and Melanie also said that she's still continuing on with it, you do form connections to these people. And it's like, I mean, there have been instances where you don't quite click with your person, and so they assign you another mentee and see if that works out, but you click with the program and you click with what they're doing. And I've had the same mentee my whole college experience, and you have a commitment to them and you have a friendship to them. And it's not like something where you're just like, okay, I'm going to give 3 hours of my day and then I'm not going to have to think about it again forever. Like, this is something that's now a part of you and you are engaged with it. And it's not just like something that you check off on a sheet of paper and they're like, I did that.
I think there's also more intentionality afterwards, at least in my experience with it. And so you don't just go and do what you're doing and then you're done and you move on with your life. You're also asked to reflect upon it and kind of look back and see what you took away from it, what your impact was, and think more broadly than just the experience, but how that's going to kind of, what ripple effects it could have on you, on that person, and on the community.
That was a good question, TJ. Don't be afraid. Yeah, those of you who are joining us to ask questions, you can even, if you're not feeling super bold, you can even slip it to me privately and I'll read it out loud for you. So for those of you who have continued to be engaged, and I think that I'm correct in saying all of you have continued to be engaged with community engagement sort of beyond your freshman year, tell us a little bit about how you've continued to stay engaged and why.
I can start. So something that I'm really passionate about and have engaged with on and off since graduation has been teaching or helping with ESL classes at my community. So as I mentioned, I was a Spanish major, and one of my courses that I took was actually a 400 level service learning class through the Spanish department. And a big part of that class was having some kind of engagement component that related to Spanish language. So I was placed into an ESL classroom and I was there for my entire senior year. I would go once, sometimes twice a week. And I really, really connected with that work, especially teaching English specifically to Spanish speakers, was really fulfilling for me. So that's something that after graduation, I knew that I liked it. And so I just had sought different opportunities to do that in my community and kind of continue to feel fulfilled in that way. And I just do it because I really enjoy doing that. And it is a way to kind of connect with my community, meet different people, and just, yeah, be of service in some way and get to know other members that live in my community that I might not meet in any other way.
I'm also happy to go. For me, I definitely was going to continue being a mentor for the REACH program, but I was also asked my sophomore year to do what Melanie is doing and be an honors engaged liaison. For me, that was to stick with REACH. And so kind of, again, what Jill was saying with the reflecting back, I got a lot of my reflecting experience as the mentor for the mentors when you're like trying to figure out how to mentor them on how to mentor their mentee. Sorry, that's all those words, but that was a more reflective time for me and like figuring out what is it that I actually did for my mentee this year other than being her friend. And it made me look back on like what it was that I told her that I thought helped her the most, or if I was actually being helpful at all, which maybe sometimes I wasn't and she was just a friend. But anyways, I think that really like solidified me wanting to continue, not just with having a friend, it like made me want to continue with the program because I saw that there was something more to being her friend and also communicating with the program than there was just being their friend, because there was nothing stopping me from being like, well, I don't really care about like continuing with Reach, but I can still talk to my mentee. Like there's nothing stopping me from that. But there was also nothing stopping me from continuing with Reach and doing that still like little check-ins with them every once in a while. Did I answer that question? I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you stayed engaged with Reach, and I don't know if there are any other ways that you've sort of been involved in community engagement that you want to talk about. But
I guess not really with the Honors College. I am a computer science major, and I've always liked helping with like the high school programming competition that we bring in, and like when we have elementary schools come tour, I'm always involved with that. And I've spoken to some schools in the community to kind of bring that computer science education earlier, especially with like getting women involved, but that has nothing to do with Reach, but that's something I'm passionate about.
Hi, I'm hearing a lot about community involvement, which is very exciting for me. However, all this involvement is kind of like getting me to think about how you balance school with involving yourself. So do you feel like you ever struggled with that, or do you feel like it was like easy to balance?
that's a good question.
I'm happy I just mentioned all those things. I think my freshman year, I was really eager to say yes to everything. And that was okay my freshman year because the classes weren't as tough and I really wanted that. But then you kind of like pick and choose what you're really into as you go on. Definitely at some point I was like a little overwhelmed. But if you like them all, like it works out and you kind of learn to like mush those things together. And like for me, being the Reach mentor gets easier as you go on, because at the beginning there might be a lot of things and then it's just another friend and you go out and you catch up with them and all that kind of stuff. So for me, even though like I'm still part of this program, it isn't that much work. It's help over the long term. You've been there for somebody, but it's not like you know, how Melanie said, like you spend 4 to 6 hours a week with this person, we're friends. If I'm having a hard week, I'm like, talk to you later, like just like I would do with any of my other friends, or I'd be like, hey, just need to vent or whatever. Like it comes naturally. So there is definitely juggling, but you can make it work for sure.
I just have a quick comment to make. So at my school or high school, we do a lot of service learning now as it is. And so what I think is really cool, and now that I'm thinking of it in, you know, in these terms, I don't think I could go somewhere where I wouldn't be able to have the same sort of service opportunities that I have now. Like Olivia, I have a twin Olivia. And this Olivia in here, she said that she was teaching English as second language students. That's what I did the past year. I'd go like once a week to this elementary school and do that. And that wasn't even part of my service requirement. That's just something that I had time to do. So I did go through with that. So I think that it's really sincere that you guys have taken like so much away from these opportunities. And it just makes me want to, you know, like get involved right now.
That's great. And yeah, Kaya, to your question, I definitely agree with Chloe, where I think that is kind of a natural progression. I think my freshman year too, you like kind of take on a lot of things that sound interesting to you. And then there comes a point where you have to, you know, take a hard look at it and say, okay, what are my priorities? What do I have time for? And I think that's a perfectly okay way to do it, because you, of course, can't just like decide right when you step on campus, like these are the 3 things that I will do for the rest of my 4 years. Like it does take a little bit of trial and error to figure out what you like. So I think it's okay to kind of test things out. And if, you know, you are feeling overwhelmed, you don't have time for all these things, it's also perfectly okay to focus in and say, these are the things that I'm passionate about. I'm going to commit myself to these things. And I think that also happens naturally. And in terms of the time commitment, I don't know how it is anymore, but I think my honors engaged was just like maybe 2 hours a week out of my time. So it's usually not like, all consuming or anything like that. It might just be, okay, Wednesday afternoon, that's when I go to honors engaged. And then you revisit it next week. So there is still time to like do your homework, relax, and all of that.
And honestly, I feel like it can be a really nice break from the schoolwork, the college bubble, the classes. I'm not a panelist here, but I know that when I was a student, like that was one of the main reasons I initially got involved with service, was to do something outside of studying and still feel like I was making a difference. Yeah. Chloe, you talked a little bit about how you getting involved with like computer science and sort of engaging with service in that way. Do any of it, other of you have experience sort of like connecting what you were doing in Honors Engaged or your service with maybe your major interests or your career goals, or sort of see either of those things change, like maybe your sort of idea for after graduation change because of what you experienced through service?
I can talk a little bit to that, more the last part of what you mentioned of my informing my career now, and the master's degree that I sought. So when I was in school, I had mentioned at the beginning, I was a business administration major, and then all of the honors engaged and other engagement activities with the community that I did ended up revolving around like public health. And I will say I did enter college thinking I was going to be a doctor, and that changed. But so between Greenheart and then I joined something called Louie's Kids, which is helping to prevent childhood obesity. I did an alternative spring break that was medical related, soup kitchen, helping with more food security. So it was all these public health initiatives. And it wasn't until senior year when one of my professors kind of looked at my interest in terms of that and my business administration major. And he's like, why don't you go into healthcare administration? And so that was a way to combine like my original major choice with that. And then when I was going to pick my grad schools for what I was going to get my master's of health administration in, I really wanted to have it at a school of public health because of the engagement activities that I was a part of. I like the way that the public health mindset helps shape the world. And yeah, it gives back a more holistic approach rather than just being like a bureaucrat in business administration. You actually have this bigger perspective and mission in mind. And so in all of my grad school essays and all of that, I mentioned things about the different engagement that I had in Charleston that really started with this Honors Engaged program, and ended up going to School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins and getting my MHA there. So it directly impacted where I am today and where I graduated from in May. So.
What a time to graduate with that master's degree too.
Yes, our virtual graduation from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. It was very timely.
Yeah, I already touched on this a little bit, but I really loved that one of the major requirements that I had to take for Spanish was this kind of service engagement oriented course. And it was really cool because we each had different placements. There were a lot of things to choose from. So there was someone who was more interested in law. And so she went and was a like translator, interpreter at a law firm. And I'm blanking on what all of my other classmates did. That one just stuck out in my mind. I think maybe someone did like medical interpretation too, but it was really cool because we would all go off and do our different service things, but then there was also a course tied to it. So we would all come together and kind of share our experiences and be able to bring in those experiences that we all had separately in the community together and kind of share what we were seeing. And it was just a really, I thought, huge credit to the Spanish department and the college that, that is at the forefront of the academics, is to really engage in the community and have some kind of sustainable presence there.
So obviously everyone tuning in is really interested in community engagement. Otherwise they would not have clicked on this and said, yes, I want to sign up for yet another Zoom call. So what tips do you all have for getting involved in meaningful community engagement in college?
My biggest thing outside of the Honors College, which showed me some of the ways to get involved, was getting involved in my major department. I took a front desk position at the computer science department my freshman year, and then got involved with the program director. So I was invited to all the events, and those events were sometimes like parties for the current computer science college students, but then they were also like the outreach events for meeting with kids from elementary schools in our areas, or showing around high school students, or giving tours to prospective students. And all that stuff just kind of was super fun and helped me get used to my other peers and the other kids in the department who were college students who were involved in the department. And just showed me I liked the recruitment and the outreach side of computer science, as well as other things too. So I really liked having that like totally not computer science related outreach, as well as the more major related time where I can just nerd out and talk about computer science while also bringing that to other people.
I think the biggest tip that I could give, no matter what like your major is, no matter what you want to do with your life, is just to put yourself out of your comfort zone, because I never would have done Reach on my own had it not been for Honors Engaged, and it was so out of my comfort zone. And every one of my friends was like, why are you doing that one? Like, why did you pick that? You do not have the personality for that. And I was like, who cares? Let's try it. And I tried it and I loved it. So like, don't be afraid to do something that like might scare you a little bit, because you might actually like end up really liking it.
I would give kind of two things. First, when I was there, I hope they still do it. There was kind of this like fair at the beginning of the year that the Greater College puts on, and it brings in a bunch of opportunities. And I will use the word volunteer here because I think it was called the Volunteer Fair. But that is like another way that you can get involved other than like the engaged opportunities with the community, which those are great. Trust me, they're great. You'll love them. But this also shows some other organizations that maybe if something doesn't click with you, you can still continue to be engaged with the community after Honors Engaged. And then the second thing I would say is, if you start doing something and you find that you really like it, ask like how you can do more, how you can get more involved. Kind of like what Chloe said with her major, like she really enjoyed that. She wanted to do more. And I think to what Kaya was saying before, if you do that, then the things that you're doing, it makes it easier to juggle, because you're really enjoying what you're doing and you're getting more involved, and you're getting involved in the community, whatever size that community is, whether it's your business or your major community, your school community, the Charleston community. Community engagement doesn't just have to be like this huge thing. You're a part of so many communities.
I have a tip that is more of once you're in it, not necessarily a how to get involved tip, but I shall share it anyways. But kind of piggybacking off what Jillian was saying about like, if you find you really love it, asking for more. Also, like make those relationships and make those connections at your Honors Engaged placement. You know, there will be the staff members at the organization that you're working with, and like get to know them, build that relationship, because if you do want to continue working there, that's a really valuable connection to have made and relationship to have made. I know I was able to ask, you know, at the ESL place that I volunteered with my Spanish course, like I was able to use one of the teachers there as a reference, I think in my Fulbright application. And so you just never know when you're going to make a really strong relationship, and it can only positive things can come from that. And one tip about getting involved is kind of like what Melanie was saying about, you know, not being afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to choose something that's speaking to you, even if, you know, your friends aren't choosing that, because it can be really sometimes scary to sign up for something when you don't have that, you know, friend network to go with you or anything like that. But you're going to make friends, you're going to make connections. So if you feel really passionately and your gut is telling you to pick something, I just say go for it and you'll figure it out along the way.
Those are good tips. Any other questions for our panelists? No? Okay. Any final words then from our panelists? Anything that you're like, I did not mention this and I have to say it right now? No? Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much to our panelists for sharing your experiences, and to those of you joining us, especially for your questions. We really appreciate those. And if you have any questions about things related to applications and admissions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer those and talk with you one-on-one about that process. And also, I did not mention this at the beginning, but all of the folks that are on our panel right now are actually ambassadors for the Honors College. So either alumni ambassadors or student ambassadors. So if you ever want to talk with one of them sort of on a more one-on-one informal basis, feel free to reach out as well. And I can always connect you with someone with similar interests, or someone who I just think you would click with. So don't hesitate to reach out and make that ask for sure. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday night, and hopefully I will see you all again soon on another one of these virtual events. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you.